At the start of our tale, the mists lay before us, the eternal fabric of reality from which everything came and everything will return to. At some point, in a particular pocket of the mists, something stirred, and magic formed and expanded. This magic, later known as the Void, is a pure embodiment of entropy. Perfect chaos, without limit, context, or separation. But chaos also breeds creation, and so Soo-Won, the first Elder Dragon, found herself existing. Gifted with the ability to consume and filter the magic into their separate domains, crystal, shadow, fire, ice, plant, and water, and letting it flow freely through the space created by the void. With the help of these domains, Soo-Won began to create. First a small island in the nothingness for her to live and rest. Then a wide sea. Then mountains. And a forest. And so the continent of Kantha came to be. This state of being proved to be unstable though, as too much magic would bring her creation out of balance and too little would leave it to wither and die. So she created the system of the All, later known as the Eternal Alchemy by the Asura, a tight arcane mechanism in which Tyria is orbited by the different realms of magic, and through them held in magical balance. After the creation of the world and the All, Soo-Won took to her work diligently. Since after it was left untouched, natural entropy caused the filtered magic to collapse into itself to reform its original state of the void, there was little time to rest and admire her work. The magic she filtered streamed across the land in rivers and, like water, accumulated in some places and ran dry in others. These currents of magic came to be known as ley lines. But eventually, Soo-Won grew tired and lonely, so she decided to create company for herself. With this, the Elder Dragons Krakatoric, Zaitan, Primordus, Jormak, and Mordremoth were created, each given one domain of magic to control and filter, while Soo-Won assumed the domain of water as her own. In the following period of time, life on Tyria's now formed continents and seas began to flourish. Different species emerged, and a natural cycle of life developed. In the background, though, a whole other cycle began to take its shape. The Elder Dragons, who took on characteristics of their respective domains over time, developed their own ideas and expectations about life and the world. These would lead to the dragons clashing with each other, and ultimately they drifted apart. Furthermore, the void, longing to return to a state of chaos, began to taint the dragons. Eventually, they were so deeply corrupted by greed and jealousy over the other's domains that each one started to devour every kind of magic they could get hold of. They used their own magic and influence to corrupt other beings on Tyria to do their bidding and further their goals, and thus the first dragon minions were born. Soo-Won helplessly watched as her children waged war against each other and destroying her creation in the process. She herself being tainted by the void as well, and too weak to stop them, there was nothing left to do than to try to mitigate the harm they could do. So, she created the Eyes of the Ocean, small pearls that can span a net of sorts over the area they are placed within and shielded from the dragon's magic. With these, at least part of her creation would survive under the guidance of the sentient species. After that, there was no other option as to give in to the urge to consume. Although she has kept her consciousness intact and still tried to guard the land, Kantha, which was dear to her heart in particular, as best she could in her dilapidated state. So the war went on. The dragons consumed everything in their way and reshaped the world as they pleased. In the end, no magic remained in the physical realm, but the hunger for more was still not satiated. However, with nothing left to consume, the dragons were forced to fall into a deep slumber. And over millennia, the magic they consumed seeped back into the world, which was once again allowed to flourish, until enough magic accumulated to wake the dragons again, and thus beginning a new Dragonrise. This was the start of the dragon cycle, an endless pursuit of hunger and subsequent famish and sleep. Who knows how many Dragonrises Tyria has faced over its history? Not much scripture remains from each one, both due to the period between each Dragonrise being long, as well as the immense destruction they bring every time. The last recorded instance being about 10,000 years before the exodus of the human gods. In the time between the previous two Dragonrises, many species came and went. Some evolved naturally on Tyria, like dwarves forged from the earth, or char running wild in the lands. Others, like the Forgotten, mysterious serpent-like creatures, or the Mursat, powerful spellcasters who were exiled from Naos, the realm of dreams, arrived through different means through the mists. As the dragons began to stir once more, the most advanced races of the time, now known as the Elder Races, the Dwarves, Forgotten, Jotun, Mursat, and the Seers, banded together to face this threat. At the end of the subsequent war, the Forgotten and the Mursat, both very powerful magic-using races in their own right, attempted to raid Zaitan's lair and kill the Elder Dragon. But they ultimately failed, and there were many casualties for both races. Bitter and distraught by their defeat, the Mursat blamed the other races of their alliance, who had refused to partake in the raid, while the Forgotten searched for other ways to defeat their enemy. They delved deep into old and forgotten magical knowledge and found a spell which could potentially turn the tides in their favor. A spell that could set the scion and champion of the Elder Dragon Kralkatorrik free from his influence. The spell was successful, and Glint saw the world through a different lens. Where anger and hunger once dwelled, compassion and empathy towards the mortal races took its place. Although Glint was a powerful ally, even her might and magic paled in comparison to the Elder Dragons. Soon, the Alliance knew that this was a fight they could not win. Confronted with the total destruction of their world, the Seers, aided by Glint's knowledge of the dragons, proposed a different solution. Through experimentation, they found a way to seal away magic which was untouched by the dragons into stones, so there was less magic for the dragons to consume, and they would return to their dormant state sooner. Faced with the hopelessness of the situation, the races reluctantly agreed to give up their magic. All except the Morsad, who blamed the Seers in particular for not helping with the failed raid on Zaitan. They found a way to phase out of Tyrian existence entirely. So the Morsad betrayed their former comrades and left this plane of reality, vowing to come back and take revenge. The other races, though, sealed their magic into the Seer's Stone, which became known as the Bloodstone in later times, and was hidden away. Under Glint's guidance and protection, the other races survived the Dragonrise. Other races weren't as lucky. A notable example are the Giganticus lupicus, whose remains can still be found across the Tyrian continents. Though after a long enough span of time, all of the elder races dwindled from their advanced state, left the Tyrian plane of existence, or became extinct. And when the powerful disappear, it creates room for others to claim the power for themselves.